Los Angeles, see, at that time, Los Angeles was pretty displayed, and you didn't. We were all over there on that east side, right in that little area over there.
Right.
East of San Pedro Avenue, most of the people live. And from about First Street to Slauson Avenue, and back to Alameda. That's where most black folk in Los Angeles lived then. Mm-hmm. They had some of those people, like those people were in movies and things, and some big shot lived up there on Adams, up in there what they call Sugar Hill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They lived up there. It seems that the black folk in Los Angeles, they seem to have been just content with not being living in the deep south or something. They didn't seem to have much push and go there.
I see.
Because it was people from down south who created all the push and go here.
And I think from the previous statement I made about how we really did live in community along and get to go know real people real well. That's the reason why I think we are so clannish today, and we depend so much on each other, because just about the time you get to know real people real good, or get some friends, boom, they had to come from the council, gotta move,
right.
Keep going. So we learned to be very clannish. Almost family is very clannish.
Right.
But even to this day, almost, that's not, I know a week doesn't go by when I don't see almost every member of the family, you know.
Sure.
And when we were young, it was even more than that. When my mother was living, and she was living over there on 43rd Street, I would see them every Sunday, through the week, all the time.
I'm here today to talk about 43rd Street.
And tell us who you are.
I'm Donald Mosley. I'm not the oldest member of the family. That would be cousins. That would be Margaret or Joanne. But in this male-dominated society, I am the tribal leader because I'm the oldest male. So consider me the elder. Ask what you will.
I grew up on 43rd Street, close to Phil's Temple, CME Church, of which I'm still a member. Of course, the neighborhood doesn't look like it looked when we were there, but fond memories. Neighbors back in the time when if somebody was doing something wrong, they could come and let your parents know, and it was going to be okay. They're like, thanks for letting me know, because the neighborhood knew who you were, that kind of thing. So those were good times.
Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of my memories are tied up in 43rd Street. I was there probably, I mean, I can remember going to school. I can't remember being there before school, but I'm sure I was there before school because Mama always took care of all of us, as far as I know. So I can only remember always being there. I remember hanging out with her, and Reggie and I talk about this all the time, the fact that she would try to go to the grocery store every day to cook, and she would either go before her soap opera came on or after. So that's where I got my love of soap operas. I've been watching soap operas since I was, as long as I can remember, because of course I was probably a toddler there watching soap operas with Mama from many years ago.
My grandmother was a good woman, and she was looking out for kids after she had looked out for her own kids. So it was her second time around, and she was probably tired of us. But she always had our back.
Mama was a tough taskmaster. She used to tell me about cleaning baseboards in the living room and dining room. Girl, you better be glad you weren't born back in the day when you had to work for white folks. I'm like, I didn't say anything because I would have got popped. I said, oh, okay, I'll get it a little bit better. I didn't say that either, but I just kept doing what I was doing. But she believed in cleaning, and she wasn't sentimental. but you could tell she cared about you because you know she would swat you. I don't know what I was doing in the bathtub one time taking a bath, but maybe I wasn't moving along fast enough. I remember getting hit with a wet washcloth. I don't think I had done anything to deserve that, but you know, she must have told me not to do something. Probably was just splashing around or something. I got your splash for you, right?
Like I said, she was young when she got me. She was a teenager, and daddy was a grown man, and the church put them together because he needed a wife. He couldn't be the pastor. This is down in the country, Louisiana country town. The minister had to be married, so it was a guy there that had 3 or 4 daughters. And took daddy, marched daddy over there, picked him out one of the daughters. And my mother said the first one they sent out was a big fat girl. Because mama was chubby, but she wasn't really fat. But she was the youngest. And that's the one he picked. But she was like 17, 18. That's what I was saying earlier. Mama had all of her youth taken away raising daddy's kids. My mother and Ann were terrible. They were twins. They did everything in town. They were always in trouble. My Uncle Boogie was an outlaw. They couldn't make him go to school, couldn't make him do that. I mean, she had dealt with all of these kids already. And then she gets here, gets to California, got a nice place. Husband has passed away now. Our parents brought us all there for her to raise all over again. So that's why she used to beat up her hides with that telephone cord, because she was pissed off. You know, we used to have to take a nap every day without. I don't care what was going on. You had to go in there and lay down for like 2 hours, but that was so she could have some mama time. I understand all that now, but at the time I didn't, because I was just always wishing something would happen to her. So please, God, can you just strike her with a lightning or something? Because this lady's crazy. My grandmother came up to the elementary school, something, I don't know if it was for a program or what. She looked so good because she came up there like she went to church. She always looked nice. And I had seen them other kids, mama come up there with their house shoes on. You know what I'm saying? And I was so dreading my grandmother. My grandmother came up there and she looked like she stepped off a magazine cover, man. And I just remember being so proud, and all the other little kids was looking at her and stuff, you know. That was another great moment. What makes you is so complicated, and things that happen to you in your life, and you don't realize at this moment what's that's doing to your brain.
Yeah, I think I want to say my mother was probably a pretty typical oldest child. She was pretty bossy and thought she kind of knew everything. She was stubborn, as my father would attest to. And so she was big sister. She definitely was big sister. You know, she told me many stories about when they were young, what they used to do, how twins would always pick fights with people because they always popped off at the mouth, but they didn't really fight, not fist fight. So she said a lot of times she would actually have to fist fight people for them. And I think that didn't even change when they became adults and they first came to California. I think she actually fought some of their battles. My mother was never one to back down from a real fight. She was less likely to lash you with her tongue, more likely to lash you with her fists, I would say. Although she had the gift of gab pretty much too. I think they were pretty typical preacher's kids. She said, I mean, there were a lot of them. There were 6 of them. So I think they were pretty close, as siblings are when they move around a lot. Because of course, you know, with a minister father, they went from they lived a lot of different places in and around the city of Shreveport in Louisiana, between Texas, right over the Texas-Louisiana border, and right there in Shreveport. So they talked about all these different places where their father pastored and stuff, and they spent a lot of time together. So yeah, my mother was she was big sister. She was bossy. When the twins first came out, I believe they lived with her. And I think when Uncle Pop first came out, he did too, because she alluded to that, just in talking over the years. She would tell me stuff like that.
We were stair-stepped. Donald's the oldest, me, Jackie, and Candace, of course. And we all ended up on 43rd Street because parents were working. Candy would stay on 43rd Street until her folks got off from work. Donald and I were there. It was a time when Jackie and her family lived somewhere else, but we were just pretty much, we hung out there. And Candace was Candace was the person who would be in the kitchen window, and kids would be playing in the driveway. And if they happened to step into the little garden area, the little shrubbery area, she would be a
Kitchen window and say, "Get off our property, you little pumps." She meant punks, but she called them pumps. "Get off our property, you little pumps."
She was that person. And the other thing that I remember about Candace, and she's as sweet as can be now. And, I just actually talked to her for a long time today. But the thing is, she would hide my stuff, while she was there. And then she'd go home. And, I'm the kind of person people can trick more than once. I don't know what that means.
That was probably the worst. I don't know. I think I did it just because I could. And I just thought it was funny to hide her stuff. So then she would have to call after my parents came to pick me up and take me home and try to find out where her stuff was. I do remember going to the corner store a lot. And the other thing I used to do to her is she loved chocolate, and she liked Mr. Goodbar, Hershey's, and Hershey's with almonds. And so she'd send me to the store, and inevitably I would bring back the wrong thing. I'm not sure why that happened. It could be because I just was moving too fast and I wasn't paying attention. But she'd say, "Bring me a Hershey with almonds and a Mr. Goodbar." And I bring a regular Hershey's, or I'd bring back the wrong thing, just like all the time. That happened frequently. I just remember spending a lot of time up there. Obviously, I was there Monday through Friday for school. On Saturday, Aunt Ann would do our hair at Mama's house. That happened pretty frequently. Almost every Saturday, I got my hair done there. And then on Sunday, we would go down there after church and we would have breakfast. So that happened, I'm not sure what age I was when we stopped going down there for breakfast, because at some point they started having breakfast at the church. And so after church, we would eat breakfast either between the services or after Sunday school or whatever. But we had holidays there. My parents mostly did Thanksgiving. We had Christmas there, when I was little, until Mama decided she didn't want to do Christmas anymore. And then we started sharing Christmas around the other aunts' houses. But my parents always did pretty much Thanksgiving was their holiday.
The Christmas Eves were nothing but the aromas from the kitchen, and the one that I really remember, fudge candy, homemade fudge candy, I guess with pecans in it. But usually it would be walking through the house, all these smells, and a gorgeous Christmas tree. And of course, we believed in Santa for the longest time. I do remember the time I happened to get up and peek through the service porch. Back in the day, you had the service porch where the laundry was, and I happened to spy something that might have been on my list. But those were those were really good times. And we all gathered, and excellent food. Nothing like what I can make now. I mean, the people could really put it down. Really fond memories of Christmas.
Remember, we had a lot of birthday parties. I remember Christmas because it was always festive. It was always almost a whole family and people coming through. You remember Ella and JC used to come every Christmas. My mother's friend Audrey, you know, just so many people they were almost like family members too. So it's just a lot to remember. Huh? Pancho, yeah, we had a guy that lived, rented a room. He was a friend of my Uncle Richard's. He lived in that back room off the porch. Another good person. He was an alcoholic long before there was any real help for alcoholics. So we had to deal with him sober most of the time. But on Friday, he would come. He'll be drunk. He might come with just a chicken in his arm. No packaging, just a chicken. Because he would give away his money. So we're hanging around him because we try to get $1, a quarter, or whatever he's getting. My mother used to always say, "You kiss Pancho if he gave you $1," because that's what she thought I was. The twins, they were a big part of our lives. And because she was like a surrogate mother to most of us. My Aunt Nita, who we always looked up as like the king of the family. Seemed like she ran everything. I don't know why. I just always had that impression, even though my Uncle Richard and Pop was around, she was the one that seemed to have the say-so about everything. She was like the Iron Lady.
But I just remember us having a lot of fun up there and just being very comfortable and spending so much time up there. My dad said the Thomases were very clannish, so we spent a lot of time there. We spent a lot of time together, like Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday too.
House on 43rd. So how did that come about?
Dad and them, we bought it for Dad and them when he came out, when they moved out. He sold that little place he had there, and then I had been sending my money Mama a lot, but anyway, so he had saved up some money too. So when they came here, they bought that little house.
Okay, so they came here.
They came here.
And
but they wasn't living here. So, but they knew that they was gonna be living in California. They wasn't pastoring here, but he knew he was gonna be living in California. So since Ann and Rose and all them, they needed a place anyway. So rather than rent,
right,
he bought that house.
So he bought it before he was out here.
And
who was everyone was living there?
Everybody was living there, yeah. And so that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And Kitty and I, we were working at the museum together. Mm-hmm. And Kitty introduced me to Nita. And of course, we eventually got married and everything. And when we got married, I left my brother Bill and went to live with her because she had a house out on 115th Street. Mm-hmm. So when she and Ben Newman separated and she got her share out of the house and everything, she bought her house out there on 115th Street. And she was living out there, but spending most of the time up there on 43rd Street with them. Mm-hmm. That's what because I met up there on 43rd Street. Reverend Thomas, our father, was pastor at that time. He was in Phoenix. He was pastor in Phoenix at that time. I mean, we went over there a couple of times and visited the church and everything. But and finally later on, he got to Pasadena. Mm-hmm. That's where he was pastor when he died. Mm-hmm. But we still hadn't got married when Reverend Thomas died. Reverend Thomas, I think, died in 51, and we got married in 52. Mm-hmm.
I remember being a little boy, but I just remember how can I say this? When you're in the military, when you get out of the military, when you think back on it, the only thing you remember is being with the cats that you liked, going to clubs, doing the fun stuff. You never remember all of the misery and every day that you said, I wish I could get out of here. You never remember that. So when you look back on stuff, especially as a child, I only remember good stuff. I remember having that Hopalong Cassidy suit I got for Christmas, jumping off them banisters. You know, I remember the first time I got a bike. I got a Schwinn bike with them chrome fender covers on it and a light. You know, so you never knew if you was poor. You know, you never knew what trials and tribulations was going in the household because adults at that time, you weren't a part of that. So my life was sweet when I was a kid. You know, it really was. I can't put it any other way. And I thank my grandparents and my parents so much that my life was like it was, because it helps me to give the people that came after me a better life. You have to deal with a lot of crap over, just live life with your child. So yeah, that's what I remember. It was good times. Wish I could go back. Wish I could go back.